All right, we are live. This is episode number 106.
Nice. Okay.
So
It's amazing I've been able to put up with you for that long.
I know. I was going to say it's 106 in the can, and hey, there we are.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, we're not in the can yet. We're just starting. So
no.
But we got lots to talk about today.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in our community again.
And one of the things, we're going to do a public service announcement about replying to unfavorable reviews, and we will do that right after this.
Rough Edge FM, irritatingly irresistible internet radio at roughedgefm.com.
There's so much going on in your community that even in this age of information, it's tough to keep up. This show will help. It's all about what's new, what's happening, and what's out there. So if you're ready, sit back and listen up, Santa Paula.
Get an applause too.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. It's we're all in.
Thank you for welcoming me that way.
It wasn't for you. They were applauding for me.
Yeah, I know.
It was my mom.
That was your moment of therapy right there.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Speaking of therapy, I actually had a big therapy session yesterday.
Really?
I went down to Bakersfield and I met with a magician friend of mine.
Okay.
And we were talking about all my my shortcomings.
Is he a mentor for you?
No.
He just was the lucky one that drew the short straw.
Well, he's got I said, this is going to sound like a really weird question, but are you really always this happy and optimistic? And he said, yeah. And I went, okay, because some people put on the facade like, hey, everything's great, and but when the curtains are closed, it's like,
yeah, and we're all guilty of it. But yeah, there are people out there that are just very happy and content with who they are and what's surrounding them, and it probably drives us all nuts sometimes.
Yeah,
but I'm great for them.
Like, you can't be real. And he's like, yeah, this is really how I feel and how I am.
And some people have that magic touch that within them, they're comfortable with who they are, and like I said, and everything. So that's good.
And I spent 2 hours at lunch trying to make them miserable, and it didn't work.
So how'd you feel after you left?
I felt good. I felt positive because one of the things that he said is that you got to be your own trumpet, and it's like he said he's performed on the Palace stage at the castle, and he's got this big illusion show. He does stage shows all the time.
Yeah, and
it's like they hire him to do private events, but when it comes to the public performances for the week-long shows at the castle, he always gets booked for the parlor, not the palace. And the palace is the big stage.
Yeah.
And he got a phone call, and they ended up booking him for the palace. And I said, well, what caused that to happen? And he said, somebody actually went to the guy who books and says, how come you don't have Ron at the palace? And he's like, does he do a palace show? And so Ron said, if you don't toot your own horn, you're going to go 15 years overlooked. And he said, had I said something, I probably would have gotten booked a lot sooner. So you got to be your own, stand on your own soapbox. And
I think that's true, like in the business sense, right?
Yeah.
With our businesses, if you're not putting yourself out there as a business, how are people going to come to you?
And that for me is one of the hardest things, because by definition, I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
Except when I have my magic.
Mm-hmm.
When I do my magic, I'm like the center of attention. But then as soon as I put it away, I want to go back into that corner. And so with all the events that are going on in Santa Paula, and the grand openings and the groundbreakings and the business roundtables and stuff, my preference would be to not go, stay here, and just bury my head in a computer.
Mm-hmm.
But as a business, you gotta put yourself out there. If you don't, you're gonna get overlooked,
and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
to do that, and it's fear
for a lot of people. Yeah,
it's fearful because once you put yourself out there, the expectations lift, and you got to meet those expectations within yourself. But sometimes people just aren't comfortable to do that. Everybody gets in that little comfort zone, and it's really tough to break that. It really is. Yeah,
I told my son one time, because he's kind of the same way. He doesn't like to put himself there. And I said, one of the things that I do, if I have to make a phone call, and I know it's going to be a difficult phone call, and I really don't want to make it, what I'll do is I'll just say, you know what, just dial the phone and hit send. I don't even think about it. I just dial it and I hit send. Now I'm committed. Now I got to do, now I got to talk.
Yeah.
And so, but if you sit there and you think about it, you're going to, talk all these things around it as to why you're not going to do it right now and why you'll do it later.
Yeah.
But if you just commit and just do it.
And once you do it the first time, I mean, it's difficult, but it gets better each time you do it.
And it's never as difficult as you thought it was going to be.
No, because people get it. They understand. They've all been there, the ones that have done it before.
Yeah.
I do that as I mentor people and train people and stuff. It's like, just get out there and start. You got to start somewhere.
Right.
People understand if it's, public speaking, like I mentioned to you earlier before the show was, I gave a presentation to our Leadership Academy last night. I was one of 5 different presenters, I think it was, and we all have different styles. Yes, we were all a little bit nervous, but for me, it was like, they asked me, they were going to give me 30 minutes. And I go, well, I'm going to give me 15 or 30. It doesn't matter to me. I think I ended up talking for 40 minutes, but before, when I first started with the chamber, that wasn't me, public speaking was hard.
Yeah.
Even if it's in front of 5 people, but now I'm pretty comfortable with myself. Yes, I get nervous, but I can still go up there and do that. But it took practice and just keep getting up there. And a lot of times for the first few years, I was nervous every single time, but I needed to put myself out there to test myself too.
Yeah.
And I wish more people would do that, especially in our business community, because you see a lot of our small business, like you said, they're introverts. A lot of them are.
Yeah.
They got great business sense. They want to do it, but to get in promotion, a lot of them are, they're uncomfortable with that. And you find that out with the marketing stuff.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. And one of the things that I always tell people, because as a performer, I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm not nervous. So when I get up on stage, I don't have the jitters. I don't have any nerves. I just, do it. But that's not necessarily a good thing, because you sometimes will lack preparation, because if you're nervous, you want to make sure that you do a really good job.
Yeah.
And you're putting that extra effort behind it to make sure that, you don't mess up.
Yeah.
And you take those nerves away and you become comfortable. That's when the mistakes start happening. So I always tell myself that, not being nervous is not something to be necessarily proud of.
Yeah.
I mean, as a magician, being nervous, you don't want to be like shaking. And that's one of the hard parts with my son, because he has MS and he has tremors. Yeah. And it can get distracting watching people work up close. Yeah. But you should still feel something like in your gut.
Oh yeah.
And something that says, make sure you're prepared, make sure you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. And
last night I had
nerves is a good thing.
I actually got up and had to walk a little bit to get myself prepped for it, because I can't just stand up and start doing it. I had to kind of like mentally get myself prepared. Yeah. And my presentation was, for the most part, ad lib, but I had bullet points to help guide me on the screen.
Oh, okay.
So I needed to put those. I was just going to start talking, and I'm like, no, I need to put bullet points so I can follow my, I know what to say about each one, but I just didn't want to miss something.
Right.
And even when
you start going, and then all of a sudden you're completely sidetracked. And
and a couple of the bullet points, I actually skipped them, not intentionally, but I did. And somebody had said, well, what about that? And I look back and go, oh yeah, I did forget that, but I was just trying to, you get rolling and you get that comfort level, and then you miss something, you know? So, and even though I had bullet points, I prepped it ahead of time, still missed something, and after I was done, I was like, yeah, I could have done a better job. It irked me that I missed a couple little things.
Right.
But, you keep practicing, you keep learning and stuff. But I totally get you. Sometimes I would go into a presentation and I would be a little too comfortable.
Yeah.
But then I would take questions, and then that gets me uncomfortable, because sometimes I don't always have the answers and I got to think on my feet quick, so right. I always try and have questions along with what I'm doing. So that way, and it's a test for me too, and you know that as you're doing things.
Oh yeah.
Too. So
yeah. And the worst thing for any kind of a presentation is that you're rushing, boom, you're on.
Yeah.
I need, when I set up for my shows and stuff like that, I need like 5 minutes before I start performing to just kind of, decompress and just take some deep breaths. and just kind of, settle in. Because if you got your adrenaline going because you've been running, and then all of a sudden you start trying to do a presentation or a show or something like that, it's like chaos.
Yeah. It takes me a little bit to get in that zone.
Yeah.
Like I'll start and get a little nervous and stuff. And then once I get going,
then you start to
calm down a little bit. And then but I like having just that open conversation better.
Right.
I don't like reading off scripts anymore.
There's nothing, there's something about completed in 2001 by local. It's like, well, just give me the paper and I can read it.
Yeah. And even AI can't help you with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll write it out for you, but as you're reading it, it's still,
it's like, just give me the paper.
Exactly.
Why, I don't need you to read it to me.
Yeah. And people are more visual now anyway. So they don't want to, one, they don't want to read a lot of stuff. Two, they don't want to hear you just read a bunch of stuff too.
Right.
Show pictures. That's what I did last night with my bullet points. And then I showed pictures of different things we did to make it a little more visual for people. Cause I can't sit there when somebody's just talking to, they're reading every single thing on a PowerPoint. And it's just like, dude,
Yeah. Why don't you just bring the PowerPoint up, be silent for 5 minutes. Let me just read it.
Yeah. I had one PowerPoint on slide that had like a ton of writing on it. And then I looked at that when it came up. It looked great when I was getting it set. And I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's a lot there. So I just highlighted a couple things. That's all I did out of it, because I didn't even want to read it. And I'm like, I'm trying to have people read it, and I was just like, okay, whatever. Yeah. But somebody did tell me recently that everybody's so visual now that we need to kind of change our thinking a little bit different on how we do things.
Right.
When it comes to marketing.
It's interesting though, because even as visual as we are with videos and pictures and everything else, Google still has to have text. Yeah. There's got to be, and you'll get penalized in your ranking if you don't have a good balance of text to images. So, people think of, I'll just load my website up with videos and pictures. There's nothing to rank you on.
So explain text to pictures. How does that work?
So, Google needs paragraphs. It needs information about what it is you do as a business, and it can read text. It can't read a picture. Okay. And so when it's trying to determine whether or not you're the right match for the search that came up, or if you're the right business for what this person's looking for, it's got to have text to be able to determine that. And so they want a balance of text to images. I think it's oh gosh, I forget what the percentage is, but they want like for every image there needs to be 15% of text, or I forget what the ratio is. I got to look it up again.
I was going to ask, because couldn't you just put like a caption of a picture?
No, they want descriptions, because Google is all about making sure that when you search, you're getting the business or the item that you're searching for. Because if it doesn't, then people are going to be like, well, this is a waste of time. Yeah. And they're not going to use it. So Google wants to make sure, we talked about this once before. I think there was a computer company called Nissan Computers, and they had the domain Nissan.com. Yeah. In their mind, they thought that's golden, because people are going to be looking for cars. They're going to go to Nissan.com and we're going to come up. Wow. Well, the problem is that they came up and then people would bounce right off the site because they weren't looking for a computer. They're looking for a car. It's not like they're going to go to Nissan.com and go, okay, I want to buy a car. Oh, a computer. Well, why don't I buy a computer first?
Had a negative effect on
Yeah. So it was negative because so what Google was saying is that, okay, well, we're going to ding Nissan.com because their bounce rate is like 98%. Yeah. And so we don't want to send people to Nissan if they're looking for a car. So they downgraded them.
So let me ask you a question. Say we do if I want to know what's the best burger in Santa Paula, and if you use Google search on it, and if say a restaurant puts their burger up and they describe the burger and they put what it is or whatever and all that, would that something like that pop up?
If there's descriptions, yeah.
So like, they talk about exactly what's on the burger, and a little caption, delicious, whatever, at so-and-so restaurant.
Right.
Under that picture.
Right. Like if you had, let's say 2 videos and 10 images on your homepage, and you had one paragraph that just said, "Hey, welcome to Best Burgers in Town."
Yeah.
Google's not going to do a thing for you because they're going to be like, okay, you got a website with one line.
So you got to a handful of lines so the more descriptive you are, the better.
Yeah, because Google then knows for sure if I'm looking for the best burger, this is the place to send them to because they talk about having the best burger and they have images that are captioned with the best burger. And so they must be the best burger. And they have reviews that say, man, their burgers are awesome and amazing. And
and that's where we've had a discussion about some of our local restaurants about how they can help elevate their game.
Yeah.
Because if you come in here and it's what's the best restaurant in Santa Paula, what'll pop up? Maybe the one that has the best description of who they are and what they do, correct?
Right. Well, people who have restaurants and everything in their dialogue and everything else. And, in Santa Paula, it's a little hard. It's a little easier to rank because there's not a lot of competitors that are in there.
Yeah. I'm going to type in while you're talking.
So if you were to go to LA and do a query like that, they're going to rank the ones that are the best descriptive, that have the most reviews, that have a higher domain authority, and everybody else is just going to get pushed off the page.
Yeah.
In Santa Paula, it's not as difficult because there's not a lot of competition.
So I pull up the best restaurant in Santa Paula, and it came up El Capricho Restaurant.
Okay, so that's your business listing.
But it shows a sponsored, and it has El Capricho. So explain what that would be.
Okay, so if it's sponsored, that means that they paid to be in that spot, which when you buy ads to be in a particular spot, they get less clicks than if somebody is there organically because it's about trust. And so if I know you paid to be there, I'm going to have less trust than if I know that you organically ranked there because you earned it. And so I think it's like a 60 to 40 ratio on people that will click on sponsored ads versus organic ads.
I've always wondered about that, how that works.
Yeah.
Because you see that in like online purchasing through like companies like Amazon and stuff. There's always that sponsored item that comes up or the featured item that looks like they pay for that to move it up.
They paid for it.
Yeah.
And they changed their terminology. It used to be an ad.
Yeah.
And so now they call it sponsored because ads have a negative connotation to it.
So if I looked at this, I'll say the top 4 restaurants that come up is El Capricho, D-Thai Cuisine, Rabelais, and Enzo's.
And that's in the business listing.
That comes up under Google when I just search that best restaurants. Okay.
So that's your business block. If you scroll down more, you'll actually see. So you know what I can do is you said best
restaurant in Santa Paula, California, CA.
Okay.
But then Yelp comes up too.
Yelp is going to always come up because Yelp has a high domain authority and they list every restaurant that's in there. And so people are going to go to Yelp to find out which restaurant they should go to based on. So for me, when I put in magician, they're going to ask, they're going to come up with Gig Salad. They're going to come up with Bark. They're going to come up with all these other places versus an individual magician, because they have such a higher ranking authority than anybody else would. So you're going to get your sponsors, then you're going to get the business listing. So based on your business profile, which Google has a business profile pretty much on most businesses, that's going to be your business directory that Google has. So that's your My Business profile that Google stores on you, and that shows up. And then below that, you're going to get the organic searches. So I'm showing this right now. Am I showing? Yes, I am showing it. Okay. So you'll notice Yelp, and then Santa Paula Chamber comes up. Why does Santa Paula Chamber come up? Because you have so many restaurants listed on your website,
and we're awesome.
And you have a higher authority than most of them probably do.
Yeah.
And so you're going to show up, just like the same thing with Yelp. They have all these restaurants. Same thing with Open Table. These are all referral based sites.
And that's interesting because I saw the Chamber came up, and I was curious why.
Right. Yeah, because you have all these restaurant listings, and you probably have a higher authority than they do, and you probably have more clicks.
Well, there's a high click rate for all of our restaurants.
Yeah.
As I go,
So that's where people are going to find what restaurant to go to.
Yeah, exactly. So
now, eventually, as you go down the list, you're going to see Hosie's Grill.
Yeah, Hosie's is there too.
And so Hosie's is there primarily probably because they have a really high rating. They also have probably a really good domain authority, meaning a lot of people are going to the website. They trust the website. They probably have a lot of links. So one of the things that helps increase your authority is how many people outside of your domain are linking to you.
Yeah.
Because the more people that link to you, the more people that are referring to you, Google says, oh, gosh, this guy has got so many links going to him. He must be an authority on this issue.
How about reviews?
So reviews also have an impact. So it's going to have an impact on Yelp in your Yelp listing. Well, Yelp is the mafia of advertising. So I don't have a lot of good things to say about Yelp. But normally you're going to prioritize based on the popularity of your business. Yelp will do it based on how much money you're willing to spend.
Because if you look at like Rabelais, they have 1,000 reviews. It says 1K in reviews. If you look at like Enzo's, they have 155 reviews. D-Type Pasta 47, Capriccio 150. So this doesn't necessarily rank them because
not just by there's over 200 factors that are determined to where you're going to position yourself.
You would think like Rabelais that has 1,000 reviews should be at the top.
Correct. But if you look at El Pescador, they have a review that has best food in it. And so it hit more towards the search that we created.
Of best.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too.
And they might also, El Pescador might also get more clicks.
Yeah. So advice to a, not necessarily a restaurant, to a business themselves when it comes to ranking on Google. What's the best thing that they could do?
The best thing is that there has to be enough text in there to be able to rank on. So it's not all about pictures and all about videos. It's about content, which includes text.
Yeah.
The other thing is there's a saying, content is king. I'm sorry. Content is king, meaning that your website can't be a one and done. If you build it and then that's the last time it ever gets touched and it just sits there, Google's going to look at it as a dormant, non-active business. But if you're constantly posting to it, you're putting in blogs and you're putting in posts and you're updating content, then Google's going to look at it as like, this is a vibrant business. This is an active business.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at this is El Capriccio, a review.
Yes.
A Google review. They put a picture. They put a whole paragraph of what they ate and why they were there. And, so it's just, and that was from a review,
And the other thing that's important too is, acknowledging really good reviews is great, but ignoring bad reviews is bad. If somebody gives you a 1-star or 2-star, you got to go on there and you got to put your side of the story, because if you don't, then people are going to be like, well, what they said must be true.
How does a business do that?
So there's several sources. There's Yelp, there's Google, there's Amazon has places for reviews.
What I'm saying is they review it and say I came here as an example and I had a bad experience.
Right.
I got locked in the escape room.
Right.
And I couldn't get out. Nobody helped me.
Right.
So I got
we
scared
there for 2
tried,
hours.
whatever. Had to go to the bathroom.
And
couldn't do it.
The AC off.
Yeah.
And so it was an oven.
Exactly. So, and I go and I put a review and say a 1-star. I had a horrible time. The experience was not good. I'll never come back again. What would you do as a business person?
So the first thing I would do is I would not attack the person. I'd say, well, it was your fault because you were too stupid to figure out how to get out.
Even though it was,
yeah.
but really, what's the proper way a business should?
So the proper way is to always address it in a positive way. So one is to acknowledge their feelings as far as being okay. Gee, I am so sorry that you had a bad experience. As you can see from our other reviews, we work really hard to try to make it a positive thing, but we failed when it came to you. And, I would love to have you come back on us and, give us another opportunity. So you don't necessarily want to make excuses. You don't want to be like, oh, well, our employee was busy helping somebody else. And then they were sick, so they were in the bathroom most of the time. You don't want to excuse it. You want to acknowledge it, and you want to acknowledge that their feelings are real. And then you want to also acknowledge the fact that, this is not the way we normally do business, and, give us another opportunity. If you email me privately, I'll send you a coupon. You can come back for free, whatever.
Yeah. It's acknowledging, and you apologize for the bad experience.
Yeah.
Not for what you guys are initially doing, because you're not intentionally trying to make it a bad experience.
No.
But, you're just sorry that they had a bad experience, and you're going to try, one, like you said, you're going to try and do better. And two, you're going to invite them back for a different type of experience.
Yeah.
Give you the opportunity to make it right.
And you best know when they come back, because you better make sure that your experience goes above and beyond.
Yeah. And I do see that in reviews sometimes when I'm just kind of glancing at things, not anything here, but just in general, like when you buy something online and you have a bad experience and stuff, and you'll see that company go on and do the exact same thing you're talking about. They acknowledge that something went wrong. That's not their intention, and they're going to try and do better. And whatever, like you say, either they stop it there, or they welcome them back again,
right?
Or they give them something, private message, whatever they need to do. But yeah, it's to your point. It's exactly what I see out there, how they do that.
If you attack the person, it's not only going to affect the fact that person's never coming back, but everybody who reads that and sees that you're attacked, they're going to go, "You're a crappy person."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you've seen in the news recently, a certain comedian had a bad experience at an Indian casino with a heckler. And while at the casino there, the performer was acknowledging that it was the fault of the casino was acknowledging that it was the fault of the comedian and their staff. Nobody really took the blame till after the casino actually said, "We apologize for the bad experience, whatever. That's not their intent." So they did the whole thing, but in the sense, though, they also attacked the person that was performing. And so they're still at odds with each other, but one tried to make it right and the other one didn't. So when in a sense, it's both their faults.
Right.
And so what does the public do? They bash the one that didn't apologize. So that's a bad person. Yes, probably that person did wrong in what they did, but didn't acknowledge it and apologize in a sense too, at least the intent. Because then I saw the reviews after, or people after, and they didn't blame the facility. They blamed the performer.
Yeah.
So it was really weird how that played out. And I was just like, wow, that's interesting. Because one tried to acknowledge it and the public gave them the pass. And then the other one who didn't put the blame on the facility, took all the blame, took all the heat.
Yeah, that's
where it could have just did the same thing and apologized and said they'll try and do better next time. But they're never going to work together again.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just,
yep.
But just a public perception on how that happens when one does something and somebody doesn't, or even acknowledge it, I should say.
So, the UPS store in Santa Paula has horrible rating, 2.6. We actually commented, we gave them a 1 star from our experience there. And in the past, they used to just ignore all the 1 stars, and there's a lot of them. Now they're starting to respond. I don't know if they had a change in ownership, management, whatever. But when they respond, so here's 3 weeks ago, or a month ago, I'm sorry. This is concerning to hear. We appreciate you reaching out. We'll make sure the appropriate team member knows about it right away and, follow up. They got a 1 star. 3 weeks later, they're getting another 1 star and talking about how horrible their experience was. And then 2 weeks later, they're getting another 1 star. So the issue is that, okay, so they're addressing their 1 star comment and they're apologizing. They're saying, we'll make sure we address this, but it's not improving. So when somebody looks at that, they're going to look at the review and go, okay, great. But gee, this was 2 weeks ago. This was a week ago. So obviously they're just filling us with a bunch of fluff and they really don't care about customer service. And they're just, going to operate the same way. So when you get a negative review, you better take it to heart.
Yeah.
Because if another negative review comes up afterwards, they're just going to be like.
So was it explained, the review? I mean, the negative review, what the issue was?
Yeah.
And
and every single time.
And they didn't acknowledge that.
They just apologized for their bad experience and said, they'll let the appropriate people know, which becomes a brush off because there's another negative, there's another negative, there's another negative. And so it's like.
But then could that have been maybe the person that's doing all this responding is the person that's the issue?
Could be.
Whoever they have doing that could be the issue. Because, with small businesses, it's maybe 1 or 2 people in these businesses that do this. So does the owner actually know? So, and I guess you can't do anything because it's the business that's trying to handle this, right? Unless you complain to the higher levels at some point. But if you're doing the review, then, you hope that they acknowledge it, correct?
Right.
So what does that do to the rating? Like
So customer experience is all about trust.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Google takes reviews so seriously. Like if you pad your reviews by just having a bunch of people go on and say, hey, give me a 5-star review, they're going to punish you in a big way if they find out.
Mm-hmm.
Because reviews establish trust. So if you have, a 4.7 or a 5.0, mm-hmm. I consider anything 4 or less as not a bad review, but not favorable.
Yeah.
I want their experience to be 5 stars, period. And so if somebody gives us a 4-star, to me, that's worthy of a comment back because I didn't deliver and that's what I want them to have.
But I've been in places, and recently I was in one where they had asked me to go on their site and give them a review and to give them a 5-star review.
Yeah.
They're asking for that. And I'm like, I didn't give them a 5-star review. They were good, but they weren't great.
Right.
So, and you have the different things you rank, their customer service was outstanding when it came to that, but there was other little things that they did that kind of they could have got better.
Right.
And being that we're in that industry, the customer service, since we acknowledge that, most people won't see some of that stuff, but I always notice the little things,
Right.
And it's just, we had to rent a car in Oxnard and the experience wasn't the best. They were quick in getting to something, but the interaction was not the best. And I know they've done it better before, so I didn't give them a high rating.
Right.
Now whether they acknowledge that, I don't know, but, but there's companies that actually now ask that you give them a 5-star.
Yeah.
And it kind of, to me personally, I won't do it unless they were actually outstanding. And the ones that don't ask and they do great service, those are the ones I really rank high. But when they're begging for 5 stars so they can get ranked better, you kind of take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
you gotta earn it,
and I'll give it to you.
Exactly. Don't tell me how to vote, or how to do that.
People associate 5 stars as being perfection, and it's really not. Mm-hmm. If you were happy with the business and you think that they had good service and the food was good or whatever it was that you went there for was good and the people were decent, mm-hmm. It took a little bit longer than I thought. I'll give them a 5-star because it's about whether or not am I going to go back to that business.
Yeah.
And do I feel that they're worthy of somebody else's business?
Yeah.
And the reason why I do that is because even people that get a 4-star will look, oh, where did they fall short? Yeah. So 5 stars, for some people, 5 stars means perfection. For other people, 5-star just means that, it's a great business. You should go out and support them and, do that. And
I was like, isn't it misleading though when it's just that's your ranking, just either 1 to 5? Because I've seen places where it tells you, well, the service was the overall experience this. And,
doing the whole thing.
Yeah, because a lot of times just rank it one time and that's going to cover all aspects of your experience.
Right.
Like an overall thing. Is that good or is it bad?
It's reviews are very subjective.
Yeah.
And the best level of trust is obviously is if you said to somebody, hey, go see Jim because he's going to treat you really good. And now I got a customer because they trust you.
Yeah.
The second level of trust is going to reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Well, reviews are subjective. Reviews are sometimes padded.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to be cautious about what you look at. Some people will take the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star like literally and say, okay, yeah, they're it's good business. They're average. I'll give them a 3.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, would you go back to them? Oh, yeah. No, I like their food. I like their people. Well, then you should probably go a little bit higher because people are going to take 3 literally and go, oh, so it's so.
Yeah.
Because
say I come to your place, say I come to one of your shows, and the show was outstanding, great show, but the level of service coming up to the show was average.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I rank them a 5. How do you take that? You're like, oh, we had a great experience, but yet again, your customer service on the other end was lacking.
So I would probably, in that regard, I'd give them a 4.
Okay.
If I'm going to go back to a business, but my description will say, oh man, the performances were awesome, but they didn't have enough staff on hand, so it was hard to whatever. So I would actually explain why they got the 4.
So putting comments is very helpful.
Yeah, it's helpful to the business. It's helpful to the people who are deciding whether or not they want to do business.
Yeah, because we've had that and we've talked. We have a couple of businesses here that have recently been given low ranking or low reviews, and because of various different things,
and 0 comments to them.
Yes. So how does a business get better if it's if they don't see the comments? If I come to your business and say, yeah, like I said, I give you a 5, but yet again, it wasn't the full total experience. How do you learn as a business?
Right.
Because customers usually don't know how to rank them.
Yeah.
So if you get 5 stars all the time and you're like, oh, we're awesome, but yet again, you're not, you're there, but you're not where you should be. Or how does it help a business grow?
Right.
Because if they see 5 stars all the time, oh, we're good. They're never going to get better. So, the advice probably is just make sure you comment on top of that. But
yeah, especially if you're going to give a poor ranking, you need to explain to them why. Okay. And the business better reply back.
Yeah. Because
if the business ignores it, then the only voice they hear is the customer who says you guys suck. And so you need to reply. And when you reply back, you better be honest about your reply. And if you intend on, providing quicker service, then you better step up your service.
So what's the proper response time for a business?
On a review?
Yeah.
I generally respond within the 1 day.
1 day?
Yeah. Because it's still fresh in the person's mind, and that review isn't sitting out there idle on its own without any feedback whatsoever.
So by not responding, it actually hurts a business because people will chime in, they'll see that, and there's no response. So
that's all they have to go by.
So would 48 hours be a proper response time?
Yeah, I would definitely, because you don't want it to linger.
How long
you'll forget
before you start. Say like I only go on my computer once a week by website.
Then you better check reviews once a week and get to those things right away.
Like every Monday, you're acknowledging anything that's happened in the past week.
Ideally, 1 to 2 days is fine.
Okay.
But because again, that review is going to be out there, and that week you never know how many people are going to be judging you based on that review.
Yeah.
So, and I get notified when we get a review. And so if we get a low review, I'll get a notification, and I'll tell you, as soon as I get that notification, I'm on there within the next 10 minutes replying back to them.
So does Google take into account when a business acknowledges it?
That I'm not sure of.
Because like if I give you a bad review and it dings you, but then again, you come back and you apologize for the experience, whatever, you can do better. Does Google take that into account?
Well, I know they take into account the fact that you're active.
Okay.
So if you're actively responding to the reviews, then they know your business is engaged.
So there's value for you to
To
respond.
be engaged, yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I think that's good advice for businesses. That if you do see it, make sure you keep responding.
Yeah, it's all about engagement.
Yeah.
You know, Google wants to make sure that you are actively engaged in your business
Mhm.
and with your customers because their reputation is on the line. They're sending them to you.
Yeah.
So,
Good. Okay.
Well, we went 10 minutes over our time.
But that actually
So,
is a good explanation of how to help our businesses when it comes to that stuff. So
let's give a quick synopsis on what the heck's going on.
What's going on? We've got in 2 weeks on the 29th and 30th, we have our Citrus Music Festival. We just started putting some advertisement on it, some heavy advertisement. It's at Veterans Park. It's on Saturday from noon to 9 p.m. And we have our headliners Full Clip, and we have Wano and Friends, we have Rewind, and we have Whiskey Business, 3 Santa Paula bands. And then on Sunday, we have all.
Is Carlos in one of those bands?
No.
Okay.
We couldn't afford them.
Oh.
But on Sunday we have all Mexican music, mariachis, bandas, a really good lineup of four good bands. We're partnering with Radio Láser, Oxnard radio station, and so it's a good family day. Bring your family and enjoy some great music both days. But it's in downtown in Veterans Park, right across from City Hall. So the whole downtown is going to be pretty vibrant that week. We also have the following week, we have on 4th of July, we have the first ever drone show. So that's going to be great at Harding Park. So
really looking forward to that.
Yeah. So that's something new for the city. So we're going to try it.
And they're going to bring out food trucks, which they haven't done in the past 4th of July stuff.
So the city of Santa Paula is going to create a whole experience out there at the park. So you can bring your family out there and enjoy the afternoon, evening, and then just watch this really cool drone show. So it's something new for our community. So we'll see how that goes. And to be honest, in Santa Paula, there's fireworks all over the place. I mean, in any city, they do all that's illegal and they shouldn't be doing it. But it's just like, it drives me nuts that they all do that. But the city actually spends the time and the money to put on a good show for the community, and we all should be doing that. You don't need to be doing all these other crazy things anymore.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be a good time. So we have that. There's a couple. We do have our film festival coming up, and that's at the end of July.
Yep.
We have Cruise Night. The July Cruise Night's coming up on July 5th. That's coming up in a few weeks. First Sunday again. Here we are. It's been a month. Coming up in a month again for First Sunday.
Crazy
Museum. So we're hitting the halfway point of the year. Do you believe that? So
and we are full-fledged into the summer camp season. Right, starts today.
Yeah.
And so for the next 5 weeks, we are slammed from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock every day.
Yeah. So we have that, and then a little teaser later in the summer. We have something called Best Of that's coming out. We'll have more details in probably about 3 weeks.
Best of.
So the chamber's doing something a little unique and different.
That's awesome.
So best magician in Santa Paula.
Ooh. I know where I'm voting.
There you go. So it's going to be a really cool detail. We'll have details soon. We met this morning. We're moving forward with it, and so it'll be a cool.
I think I got best magician, best magic shop, best escape room, cornered.
There you go. Now, if that's a category, then we're going to go for it. But yeah, one more details. It's going to be fun for the community what we're working on.
Nice.
So there's just every weekend there's something happening. We have the Social Services Coalition. They're putting on an event at Veterans Park a week from this coming Saturday.
And we will be live broadcasting.
Yes.
So at least one of us will be live.
I'm going to try.
Maybe two.
I might have to chime in. But yeah, so there's a lot of cool things going on. So a lot of things in Santa Paula.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Looking forward to it. All right. Well, we were very long-winded today.
Okay.
But I think we gave them some good information.
Yeah.
So we will be back next Wednesday.
Yes.
And then that following Saturday, we'll be doing a special show just for the Social Coalition.
Social Services Coalition.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you all for listening. We will see you all next
Wednesday.
week. I'm I'm delaying here because I want.
You want a good review?
Oh darn!
We just lost a good review right there.
know.
We were doing so
Yeah,
well.
the production quality just went down. Anyways, we will see y'all next week. Take care and stay safe.
Yes.
This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.